Hey everyone, thank you for coming to my channel and my first video. My name is Simone. I am 25 years old and I have HS. Beside me here is my dog Jackson. He's probably going to be in this entire video because he's just a sleepy baby bear and he likes to be beside me when I'm doing things. So today I'm going to be talking about what is Hidradenitis Suppurativa and how it's affected me, basically my journey with it. So what is Hidradenitis Suppurativa? It is a long-term skin disease that is characterized by having boils, cysts, nodules, whatever you want to call them, located in your armpits, under your breasts, in your groin, in your perineal area, and you can also get them basically anywhere where you do have hair follicles growing, but they're more commonly in those areas I had just talked about. With HS, there is no cure, unfortunately, but there are treatments available to kind of help with it, but there is no definitive cure. And what works for me may not work for you, and kind of vice versa. It's one of those diseases where even though there's multiple options for it, not everything works for every person. With HS, there are 3 stages of it, kind of, and they usually use the Hurley staging system to decide what stage you're in. So with stage 1 of HS, you get singular or isolated incidences of these nodules, you don't have any scarring, and you don't have any sinus tracts formed. Stage 2 is where you have multiple or widely spread abscesses throughout your body, and you do have scarring and sinus tracts formed. So stage 3 of the disease is where it's at its worst. It's across a regional part of your body. You know, it could be, you know, from your armpit all the way down. You could have about like 5-10 abscesses going on. They're all, the sinus tracts are interconnected, and they can get as large as golf balls. Like, it's not pretty, it's not fun, extremely painful. And that's something that I should add, is that HS is extremely painful. For me, I haven't been diagnosed at a stage, but I am, from my research, I'm probably at a stage 2 just because I have had multiple incidences, and it's kind of spread to different parts of my body. So for me, this all started back in 2019 of December. I was at work and I kind of noticed a weird lump in my armpit. I kind of brushed it off as it maybe being an ingrown hair, because I've had those before, super painful, and I kind of left it at that. A few days went by, I noticed that it was getting bigger, and of course I went to WebMD, and of course anytime you search on anything on WebMD, it basically says, you have cancer, you're gonna die, go to the hospital. So I started freaking out, thinking that, what if I had breast cancer? You know, I'm thinking all the worst cases possible. So at this point, the lump felt as if it was the size of a golf ball. Like, it was pretty large, very tender, but it was very deep under my skin. Like, there wasn't a visible head on it. Like, it just felt like someone had shoved a golf ball underneath my skin. So I went to a local walk-in clinic and I saw a doctor there, and he basically brushed it off as a lymph node infection, gave me, I think it was a 5-day dosage of Keflex, which is just a broad spectrum antibiotic, and left it at that. So I took my antibiotics, it went down and kind of went away, thought that was it. About 3-4 weeks later, coming into around January 15th, I'll insert a picture somewhere here, I got a boil on my wrist. Now, it was in the same area, on the same arm that I had the lymph node infection. I kind of got freaked out. Thankfully, where I work, one of the nurses kind of looked at it, and he said, oh, it's just a boil, you know, it's just a one-off thing, don't worry. He wrapped it for me, and I went to another walk-in clinic, saw a different doctor there, She said maybe the antibiotics didn't quite work and I had just a small infection, gave me another dosage of Keflex, but this time for, I think it was a week and a half. So I, wrapped my wrist with bandages and called it a day, took my antibiotics as directed. I didn't really try to drain it. I have lots of friends that are nurses. My brother's girlfriend's a nurse, so I had her kind of look at it. She told me what to do, which was basically cover it with a Tegaderm dressing, don't touch it, don't play with it, don't squeeze it, just let it be, let it do its own thing. When it does start to drain, just kind of wipe it away, call it a day. I was like, okay, cool, gonna leave it at that. Literally 3 weeks later, I got another boil. This time back in my armpit. I believe it was my right armpit this time, and I started freaking out. So I go to my general physician. I see him, I showed him pictures, and I'll insert a picture somewhere around here. So I showed him pictures of my past two, and he goes, okay, this is weird. Something's not right. Ordered for a blood work test to kind of see if anything was wrong. And this time he put me on a different set of antibiotics, which I believe at that point was Cipro. So I got put on Cipro for a week. That was not fun. This time I was kind of freaking out, and this is when I started to kind of dive deeper into the internet to find out why I was getting so many recurrent boils. So lo and behold, I come across a Wikipedia page that talks about hidradenitis. And kind of looking at it, I was like, this makes sense. This sounds like me. Maybe this is what I have. But at that point, we were just kind of saying it was a one-off situation, that freak accident, maybe the antibiotics don't work fully. So I take my course of antibiotics. I, drained the boil, wrapped it. And at this point, it was making it very difficult to work because I do work with my arms a lot, transferring patients and stuff. I did have to take some time off because it got to the point where I was in so much pain, because when they're in your armpits, it radiates down your entire side. I try to work with as little as my arm as possible, but again, it's not very easy doing my job with one hand. And luckily I do have great coworkers that do try and help me out and stuff. But again, I was kind of up in the air about what was going on. And then 3 weeks later, I get another boil. This time it was a cluster of about 3 under my left armpit this time. At this point, I was kind of freaked out. I made an appointment to see my doctor again, but I couldn't get in to see him right away. So I go to a different walk-in clinic, as I went to the same walk-in clinic the first 2 times. So I go to a different one, and I see a doctor there. And first thing she does when she looks at me, she goes, yeah, you have hidradenitis. Like, this is what that is. She prescribes me doxycycline, tells me to take it for a month, and then to go see my GP and go from there. So at this point, I was pretty heartbroken finding out that I did have hidradenitis, even though I kind of thought I did. Getting that, being told by a doctor that you have it was kind of just, it was heartbreaking. No one wants to have a lifelong disease, and especially one like this where it makes you feel, at least for me, it makes me feel like I'm a dirty person. It's just one of those things, even though that is quite the opposite. It isn't, HS isn't caused by your deodorant. It's not caused by being unclean. It's just one of those freak things. Doctors and researchers don't know why people have HS. They think it could be genetic, it could be environmental, but it's very hard to say. I mean, they do say you could be predispositioned to it if you do have other autoimmune diseases, or autoinflammatory, like Crohn's, PCOS, things like that. But for me, I was a healthy 24-year-old. I didn't have any diseases. I don't have anything wrong with me. I'm pretty healthy weight. I'm relatively-ish active. there was no reason for me to have this. Like, it just didn't make sense. So after seeing that doctor that did not diagnose me with it, I go to my general doctor. I tell him everything that's been going on, and he's like, yeah, I kind of thought that's what it was. He's like, I'm gonna refer you to a specialist though, and we'll go from there. He's like, we'll get you another order of the doxy. He's like, so that you can keep taking that for at least 2 months until you see the specialist, and then we go from there. So now we're in about February, March-ish. I don't think my next appointment with the specialist wasn't until April, but at that point, I've been taking my antibiotics for 2 months straight, or it was more like a month and a half before I saw the specialist. At this point, COVID's also in full swing, so that kind of put a lot of stress and didn't really help with the situation. But at that point, after being on the doxy for about a month and a half, I didn't have any more flare-ups. I thought I was in the clear. It was like a hallelujah moment. So I met with the specialist, and at first she's like, well, we're going to take you off the doxycycline, see how that goes. She's like, I'm going to prescribe you a 10% benzoyl peroxide wash to use on your armpits and your face, and we'll go from there. And she's like, call me when you get another flare-up. I was like, okay, cool. So 4 months about pass. I'm in the clear. I'm not on antibiotics anymore, which was great because that did really mess up my stomach and stuff. It was very harsh on my stomach being on a bunch of different antibiotics for about 3 months, December, January, February, about 3-4 months straight. It wasn't great. So I was 4 months in the clear. I thought I was over it. You know, I talked about it, but I was like, I'm in remission. Everything's good. Up until August. So at this point, I've had about six-ish boils. And then August happened. What a great month. So I had a breakdown when I found this new boil because it wasn't in my armpits this time. This time it was right underneath the crease of my butt cheek. I had a good cry because that meant to me that it was spreading. It was no more localized to my armpits. You know, to me, I felt like, hey, if it only stays in my armpits, that's great. It's not going to spread anywhere else. Life's good. And I think I kind of jinxed myself there. So I had a new flare-up in a new area, which left me an incredible amount of pain because with my job, I do a lot of walking. So having a boil in the crease of your butt cheek where your leg and butt meet made it so that I could not walk. I had trouble sleeping. I had trouble sitting. I had to take basically a week off of work to recuperate. I had called the dermatologist. I was able to get in to see her. All she did though was really pop it, put a dressing on, and prescribed me a antibiotic ointment, which was fine. So I do that, and then the system started again. 3 weeks later, I get another boil. This time it is on the back of my kind of shoulder area here. I had another good cry because again, I was 4 months in remission. I thought this was it. Like, I'm gonna have like the one-off flare-ups, but nope. 3 weeks later, after the one on my butt happened, I got one on my back. Called the specialist, and I wasn't able to see her for about a 2-month period, which really sucked. So I was like, fine, I'll take whatever appointment you have. I'll call my doctor. Well, I couldn't see my doctor until a month after. I was like, cool, I guess I'll just go back to the walk-in clinic. I go back to the walk-in clinic, and luckily I was able to see the same doctor that had initially diagnosed me with HS. She looks at it and she goes, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put you back on the doxy. She's like, I only want you to take it though for as long as you have the boil. She's like, keep with the antibiotic ointment, keep with the wash. And at that point, she also prescribed me a painkiller called Tramacet. That really messed me up too. It is a very strong medication, kind of like Tylenol 3s. And that did really help with the pain, because when it was on my back, I had a very difficult time sleeping, because this is the side, my left side is the side that I normally sleep on. So taking the Tramadol, I took it usually at night so that I wouldn't be woozy or disoriented during the day. And I only took it 1 or 2 times when the pain was very difficult and hard to manage. So after all of that, I drained it, put my dressings on, all that, dealt with that for about a week. 2 months pass, and I didn't have any flare-ups, and I still haven't had any flare-ups, which is great. I go see my specialist again, and at this point she finally officially diagnoses me with HS, as before she kind of thought they were just one-off incidences, but I had been adamant in telling her that normal people don't get boils every 3 weeks for 2-3 months straight. Like, that's not normal. So I told I kind of was arguing with the specialist that, like, normal people don't get boils every 3 weeks, like, you know, for 2-3 months straight. Like, that's not normal, it's HS. But she kind of was saying that because I don't have Crohn's or any other diseases that would kind of show that I was predisposition to this, it didn't really make sense for me to have it. But now that she's officially diagnosed me, I have Kinolog injections for when I do get another boil. Basically a steroid shot that you would inject into your boil before it's fully formed, and that would get rid of it. So I have that on my file. I go back to see her in a couple months, kind of see where I'm at. Personally, I think that I'm in remission right now due to the doxycycline. It is a pretty, at least to me, I think it's a strong antibiotic, because the last time I took it, I was in remission for 4 months. So at this point, I don't know when I'm gonna get another boil. I don't know where I'm gonna get it. They kind of just pop up, and every time I get one, I kind of break down a little bit inside. Kind of sad, like, I don't want this disease to define who I am. I don't want it to let it ruin my life. I'm trying to be very strong about it, because I know I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life. I can't be miserable about it. I don't want it to be, you know, something that I let completely ruin me. It's not fun, but I get through it. I'll probably post another couple of videos talking about what I use for dressings and stuff in the future, but that's it for now. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Hopefully you learned a little something. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.